Welcome to the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. You knew that because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Oh, it's good to be home. Who says he can't go back? Been all around the world, and as a matter of fact, there's only one place left I want to go. Who says he can't go home? I came home. Home is great. Europe is wonderful. Home is better. It was a long, arduous journey across the pond, over to Austria, over to Spain. A lot of precipitation, unbelievable amounts of precipitation going on. And now I'm being told that the audio on the show, oh, that's why. Hold on. I bet that's going to sound better. I guarantee that's going to sound a lot better. This is wonderful. Welcome, everyone. A lot to get into on today's show. You know, I landed in Vienna, and Vienna was snowy and cold, and that's fine, and it's okay, and it's understandable, and we can all be excited about snowy Vienna. Barcelona was rainy. I had a bunch of people tell me that it almost never rains in Barcelona. It rained every single day that I was over there, every day. So precipitation followed me, and then I landed back in these United States of America, and I was told, hey, guess what? We might get like a foot of snow. We might get a foot and a half of snow, and depending on how the storm moves, we could maybe even get 2 feet of snow. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, that sounds terrible. Oh, I love snow. But I want to declare war right now. I'm serious. I want to declare war right now on flexible instruction days. Before we even get started on sports today, I want each and every administrator of each and every school district, superintendents across this region and across this country to listen very carefully. If it is going to snow, if we're going to get a foot of snow, a foot and a half of snow, 2 feet of snow, no flexible instruction days. Bullshit. Let kids be kids. Kids want to go outside. They want to go make a snowman. They want to go build a snow fort. They want to go tunnel from house to house and maybe risk the tunnels collapsing on themselves. And, well, that wouldn't exactly be great, but they want to go out and have fun in the snow. Let them have a damn snow day.
Flexible instruction day. Hello, everybody. If we have a day off, we're going to have to do flexible instruction. I can't go outside and play today. I have to stay inside and do synchronous learning with the rest of my classmates. Yep. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to do 3rd grade math today instead of going outside and putting 1, 2, 3 giant balls of snow together and putting a hat and a little pipe in his mouth and calling him Frosty.
We lost something as a nation at some point where we went from saying snow days are good, snow days are great, snow days are for the boys and the girls of this great nation, and we turned it into flexible instruction days. Do I have to remind people? Flexible instruction days were created during COVID. Can we leave COVID things in COVID past? Can we do that? Can we just get rid of the flexible instruction days? They were crap then, they're crap now. And so it is done. Thank you. Ford is here, says, amen, let the kids play. Don't make the parents play. Don't make the parents play. I don't know if that's supposed to be IT techs and teachers. Oh, and try to work. I was talking to another parent at the bus stop today. And my whole thing was, listen, when we do flexible instruction days, it ends up being an additional thing, especially for the parents who work from home. Like the last time I had to do a flexible instruction day, I had 3 kids on 3 devices in 3 different rooms in this house, and I had to do my own regular work. It seems a little bit cumbersome. And what's the downside? You give the kids a snow day, and then they, have to continue a little bit into June? Like somewhere into June? Oh, no, we're going to tack a day on at the end of the school year. The horror. The absolute horror. No, it's fine. Snow days. Legitimate snow days. That's where this has to go. All right. Greg Bondarenko's here. Says, good afternoon, Russ and Russ Joy fans. Hello, Greg. Thank you for being here. Chris Freed asks, at $250,000 a year, aren't the Flyers overpaying Gritty? If Gritty's making $250, yeah. We need to send Gritty back to whatever Gritty planet Gritty came from. And save that $250K. Probably. Nabil Raymond over on X, thanks for being here, says, I don't know if you saw, but the Athletic prospects pundits, Wheeler and Proman, both said Philly is the rebuilding team they're the most worried about. I saw that. There was like a podcast going around. We might get to that a little bit later on or something essentially similar to that. Yes. Surprise. Surprise. The Flyers farm system isn't as great as some people might want you to believe. Okay. Maybe they'll be right. Who knows? Ford says that Springford, is there a relation between Ford and Springford? We'll have to stay tuned to find out. It says Springford has said Monday will be a traditional day off, no flexible instruction. Well, that's good. NM Stack 78 says, damn, man, I had to turn my volume down big time. Lots of yelling. Wasn't ready for that when I launched the show. Well, you always have to be on your tootsie toes. Be at the ready. You never know. Nick Abe says, oh, babe, I'm back. Hello, Nick Abe. Good to see you. Amy says, our district does not have that at all. Prayer hands, celebration, I guess flexible instruction days. We need to like just take flexible instruction days out behind the barn. That's what we have to do. JH is here, says hello from Florida. Well, enjoy the sunny weather. I assume that it's sunny. Maybe it's sunny. Is it sunny? I don't know. Also says, I hope I get home tomorrow. Uh-oh. But I get in before the storm. Seems like it's going to be absolutely bananagrams. Absolutely bananas. Let's see. Amy says that $250K worth every penny for Gritty. I don't know about that. I don't know. Sean C is here. Says Russ was right the whole time. Can't wait for the Flyers to start another rebuild after they deem this rebuild a failure, much like the last two rebuilds this decade. Rick Tocchet is a terrorist. Well, that's a little bit incendiary, but okay. Let me follow you down the Rick Tocchet. No, not going down the Rick Tocchet as a terrorist hole. We're not doing that. We are not doing that. Oh, man, I just came up with a really good name in my head that I'm not going to repeat. But, man, nope, not going to do it. But I have some good ones. Maybe away from the show, Sean C. Come up and find me on Press Row, and I could tell you a couple of the names I just came up with in my head. They're not that bad. I mean, they're bad, but they're not that bad. All right. Let's see. Chris asks, has Russ Joy ordered the Aaron Nola Paisan jersey yet? Yeah, if you missed it, and I definitely did miss it while I was over in Europe, Aaron Nola apparently declared that he's going to be pitching for Italy in the World Baseball Classic. I want to remind people that Christopher Sanchez said he is not going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic because he wants to focus on the upcoming season. He also knows that he's going to be the ace of the staff, at least until Zach Wheeler comes back from injury. But legitimately, it was announced Aaron Nola is going to pitch for Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic. I want everyone to think about that for a second. On one hand, is there any reason to be upset with Aaron Nola pitching the World Baseball Classic? No. But at the same time, should we want Aaron Nola to focus a little bit more on his pitching for the Phightin Phils? Maybe. Is there a really weird chance that Aaron Nola goes to the World Baseball Classic, pitches well, finds some semblance of himself, and then says, you know what? I'm good to go, guys. I have exorcised the demons of the past, and thanks to the wonderful Italian people, I've gotten it straightened out. Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe. Weirder things have happened. Ryan Reese is here, says, fire Briere. Good God. Sean C says, Tocchet accountability and scratches, or Tocchet, I think this is supposed to be preaches accountability, scratches Grabankin. Garnet Hathaway, right back out there. Noah Juleson, right back out there. Mishkov still in the third line. Why even waste time anymore? Well, we're going to get to the Hathaway thing because I think that there is a real conversation to be had there. Let's see. I have some people being bad influences about the Tocchet stuff in the comments. I shan't give in to that. Sean also says, Torts is a better coach for Mishkov than Tocchet. Glad he scored goals for the franchise 30 years ago so we can pay for it now. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. NM Sack asks, how bad are the Avs going to spank the Flyers tonight? Oh, I think it's going to be pretty bad. I think we're going to have to call like Hockey Protective Services and file a mandated reporter claim against the Avs for what they're going to do to the Flyers tonight, is my guess. But then again, things have been crazy. Okay. Robert Holston says McCarr might get a hat trick tonight. He's still pissed at the Flyers for passing him up. He shouldn't be pissed at the Flyers for passing up. He should actually come with an edible arrangement. He should come with a gift basket and some flowers for the Philadelphia Flyers for not drafting him into whatever this mess is. That's what he should do. He got a Stanley Cup. He should be very happy. He should hold no ill will against this Flyers franchise. He should be very happy. NM Stack says, Sammy the Swiss in net? Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, he's Swedish, but he does play like Swiss cheese, so we shall see. Chris Freed says, Avs are going to spank the Flyers like a drunken freshman girl at her first sorority party. It's going to be scandalous. I'm trying to think, how many times did I see people smack each other at parties in college? Not often. Not often. All right. Here you go. JH, well-known Flyers fan, says, I honestly don't think I'm going to watch the Flyers tonight. It's been 5 or so years since I've not watched a game because of their bullshit. Well, there you go. Kind of gives you an idea of where some people are. Okay. I don't even know where to start. I do want to get to some positivity with the Sixers. We got to see a Joel Embiid masterclass in an overtime win against the Rockets, where the Sixers were almost robbed. We are going to get there. We are going to get to Dave Dombrowski, who you'll notice that I've never called him Dave Dombrowski. I always call him Dave Dombrowski. Dombrowski, he's not very smart. He's dumb. Dombrowski. We're going to talk about him in a little bit as well, because while Major League Baseball continues to make moves, and it seems like many GMs and presidents and executives are out making moves in Major League Baseball, Dave Dombrowski has kind of wrapped it up. He's put his tools away. He sent off his letters. Now he's about to go into hibernation, I guess, until spring training. He's happy with the team. We'll get to him in a little bit as well. But I need to start with the Philadelphia Flyers. I do. Because I have been mulling over last night's episode of Snow the Goalie Radio that we did at Chickies and Pizza in Northeast Philly. And there was a moment that stuck out in that episode. And there is a moment that I continue to just kind of mull over again and again in my brain. And it made me mad. And the more I thought about that moment in the episode, the more that I realized, like, I think we have found ourselves stuck in another toxic cycle. Now, I will point out, there was a time before I left for Europe where this Flyers team was strongly in a playoff position. This Flyers team appeared as though they weren't even going to be a question mark of whether they were going to make the playoffs in an Eastern Conference full of parity. It seemed like a foregone conclusion that unless the bottom really fell out on the team, the Flyers were going to make the postseason. And then Dan Vladar got hurt. And then you start going, all right, that's not great. And then I left for Europe. And I will admit to each and every one of you, because I always tell you the truth. I always tell you the truth. I did not watch the Flyers for a 10-day period while I was in Europe. I didn't watch. I saw some clips. I saw some highlights. I saw a lot of infighting. I saw Flyers Twitter melting down. I saw some of the dumbest takes I've ever seen over on the Flyers Talk group on Facebook. I mean, like, brain-dead conversation. And then I got back. And as I kind of settled in with my family, and as I kind of settled in to what it was like to be home and feel the love and the warmth of my wife and children, who missed me dearly and who I missed dearly as well, I said, you know what? I think I shall watch the Philadelphia Flyers. I think that for the first time in a 10-day period since returning from Europe, I'm going to watch the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers of Philadelphia, the hockey team in Philadelphia that happens to be named the Flyers. And I said to myself, I'm going to go into this with an open mind. Let's see how they play against Utah. You never know. Sure, they had lost 6 of their last 7 games, but there's part of me that said, you know what? We're going to give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Flyers go up 3-0. Feels like they've pulled the nose up on this thing. Feels like they might have a little bit of momentum going forward. Feels like there is a modicum of hope that things are going to get better and that they're going to be able to right the ship, because remember, we talked about this before I left, and I think we talked about this either when I was in Vienna or in Barcelona. The Flyers had a hell of a stretch ahead of them. And it wasn't really that much of a shock that without Dan Vladar, this team lost a lot of games. There were some games in there that you simply should not have lost. Getting curb stomped by the Pittsburgh Penguins seemed a little bit weird. Getting boat raced at home by a Rangers team that was really struggling didn't make a ton of sense. They had a hell of a win on the road against Vegas where you thought, all right, maybe they're getting better. This Utah game, though, happens. They go up 3-0, and you go, all right, back-to-back potential road wins against Western Conference teams. Maybe they're going to pull themselves out of it, knowing that very soon on the horizon they were going to have to play in Colorado, and then they were going to have to welcome the Islanders to town. And they have a few other opponents in the next week or so that could be a little bit challenging. But you were going to actually be able to carry a little bit of momentum. 2 wins in a row against Colorado, and you go up 3-0 and you feel great. And then the bottom fell out. The wheels fell off. We saw stupid play after stupid play. And unfortunately, the 2 guys who really made inexcusable errors are 2 of their absolute most important players. 2 guys who wear a letter on their sweater. 2 guys who are viewed as, or were at some point viewed as, the future of this team. Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim. Bad plays. Bad defensive plays. In the case of Konechny, he actually was part of 2 of the goals that ultimately doomed this team. One was when he was at the blue line. All he had to do was poke the puck through, poke it into Utah's zone. It probably burns 10 to 15 seconds, and this game doesn't end up tied going to overtime. He failed to do so. It goes the other way. Sanheim has a horrific play. Game goes to overtime. Konechny can't keep the puck in the zone. Turns the puck over. That's it. That's all. Puck gets raced down the ice. Owen Tippett tries to recover. Allows a wide open shot. And Utah wins. But there's another moment that stuck out in this game. And it's the one that everybody has been talking about from the time it happened until, right now. And I'm guessing that it'll be something that'll be featured in video packages leading up to tonight's game against Colorado. Garnet Hathaway is on the ice with about 1.5 minutes remaining in the game. Garnet Hathaway, who has 1 point on the season. Garnet Hathaway, who has not looked very good this season at all. And maybe you want to make a case that over the last week and a half, Garnet Hathaway's looked better. He still doesn't look like the player he was last year. He's had a terrible season. Terrible. There's not a way to say it's been a somewhat redeemable season. Oh, he's had beautiful moments. No. Garnet Hathaway this season has sucked. He hasn't been meh. He hasn't been mediocre. He has sucked. Okay? We always talk about this. Relative to hockey players in the world, Garnet Hathaway is playing on an NHL team, which inherently means that he is one of the best hockey players in the world. But relative to other NHL players, he has sucked this season. And we need to be honest about that. The coaching staff, it'd really fucking help if Rick Tocchet and the coaching staff would also acknowledge that Garnet Hathaway has sucked this year. But he's on the ice with about 1.5 minutes remaining in the game. Puck gets up to him. He's got a stride and a half on the nearest Utah Mammoth. Wide open net. Goalie's gone. Wide open net. Any player on the ice, even Owen Tippett, who half the time couldn't hit a fucking barn if he was 2 feet away from it, would have been able to put that puck away. Would have been able to put that puck in the net. I'm an idiot. I could put that puck in the net. Garnet Hathaway, whose confidence has been shot because he's had such a bad season, decides he's going to take a few more strides, get closer to the net to make it a surefire thing that the puck goes in the net. Doesn't happen. He gets stripped of the puck, and eventually it does go the other way. Game gets tied. Go to overtime. They lose in overtime. Now, the Garnet Hathaway moment is the one that sticks out. And we talked about it on Snow the Goalie last night. And good old Anthony Sanfilippo kind of compared it to the Orion Kerkering mental gaffe, the blunder against the Dodgers, throwing home. And that's not the only reason that the Phillies lost that game and lost that series, but it happens to be the one that stands out the most. And there's some fairness to that. But I will once again ask a question. And it is a question I've asked all year. It's a question that I've asked week after week after week. Why is Garnet Hathaway in the lineup? I get it. There are some people who like to push back. Well, he's been a good penalty killer in his career. He's been a reliable penalty killer. And if you're trying to put guys out there on the ice at the end of game who are going to be able to finalize the result, be able to put a bow on the game, Garnet Hathaway should be one of those guys. No. I'm sorry. I think that we have reached a point now. There is no added benefit to having Garnet Hathaway in this lineup. None. None whatsoever. Early in the season, his penalty killing was overrated. He has 1 point on the season. And if you can't have a player come to this team from Lehigh Valley, if you cannot figure out a way to teach a guy, any warm-blooded human being with even a modicum of hockey acumen, if you can't figure out how to develop one of those guys and have them ready to plug and play into a lineup when needed, then you failed at some point in player development. You should be able to have another guy that could come up and play the Garnet Hathaway role. I asked the question last night. Nikita Grabankin, why isn't he playing in that spot at the end of a game? Grabankin is feisty. Grabankin is young, sure. He makes mistakes, sure. Maybe you don't view him as reliable as the veteran Garnet Hathaway. I'd rather him be in that moment. I would rather that in year 3 of the rebuild, you take the opportunity to ice games with some of your young guys in games that really don't matter, right? I think we forget this, but in games that really don't matter in the long term, they don't. I'd rather have those guys get the experience of how to close out a game. There is no value add to having Garnet Hathaway close out a game. None. None whatsoever. I would make the argument he shouldn't have been in the lineup. If you want to say that he should be, fine. I'll just give up on it right now because I don't care. There is absolutely no reason why you can't have younger guys in this lineup learn valuable lessons late in games in year 3 of a rebuild. The Flyers have lost 7 of 8 games. Going into that game, they have lost 6 of 7. And I understand there's this desire to stop the bleeding. You need to figure out a way to get both points and move on. But this team is lost. Team is lost right now. It's not hyperbole. It's not an exaggeration. The team is effectively lost. And the guy who's manning the ship, the guy who's serving as the captain, not the on-ice captain, not Sean Couturier, the guy who's wearing the hat with the parrot on his shoulder, Rick Tocchet, looks lost, looks dazed, looks confused, looks out of answers, sounds out of answers. Because then you hear him in a post-game scrum, and he won't call out guys by name, but he's very clearly disappointed in his vets, which is interesting. Because if you're a Flyers fan, a lot of what Rick Tocchet had to say sounds a hell of a lot like what John Tortorella used to say. Sounds a whole hell of a lot like Alain Vigneault used to say. Sounds a whole hell of a lot like Scott Gordon used to say. And Dave Hackstall. And even Scott Gordon. There are games where the vets on this team, the highest paid players on this team, can't figure out for the life of them how not to vomit all over themselves. And that's a problem. See, the thing is that like early in the season, when the goaltending was incredible and was able to cover up a lot of warts on this team, was able to not only keep them in games, but actively win them games. That was what Dan Vladar was doing. It made this whole mess seem a lot more tolerable because legitimately great goaltending, which make no mistake about it, that is what they were getting from Dan Vladar. Great goaltending covers up a lot of things, covers up a lot of inconsistencies, covers up a lot of issues. And since Vladar has gone out, this team has been lost. They're up a river without a paddle. It's concerning. Because at some point you expect that those veteran players that are getting paid beaucoup bucks who have letters on their sweater are going to be able to elevate their game and are going to be able to be the ones to close out those games. And you would hope that halfway through a season with a new coach in place in year 3 of a rebuild, you would hope that at some point maybe you would have developed guys over the last few years, and certainly this year, maybe you would have built enough trust between at least a few of these young guys and the head coach that you might be able to, I don't know, have 1 or 2 of them playing late in a game. Get the experience of closing out a game. And instead, no. We're going to rock and roll with the vets, and the vets let him down. So here's the question for Rick Tocchet. Now what? Is Rick Tocchet going to continue to go back to the veteran well? Is the remainder of games between now and the Olympic break simply going to feature, once again, the vets who have largely let the team down in the last 8 games? Is he going to continue to roll that way? Or is he going to break his own tradition and lean on some of the younger guys to get the job done. I tend to think it's the former. I got to tell you, if you go back to the offseason podcasts, if you go back to the offseason shows that I did leading up to the coaching hire, I said at the time I wanted an inspired hire. I would have liked an outside-the-box hire. I would have liked the idea of having a coach who's going to come in here with a new methodology, with a new system, with modern tactics in mind, with a growth mindset in place, with development at the forefront of his plan. I wanted to see the Flyers make that kind of hiring. And I said all offseason, Tocchet would be an uninspiring hire. It would be a lot of the same. Tocchet's a really good orator, very good communicator. Sometimes likes to act as though he has no idea what's being said about his team. He's a smart guy. But the facts are the facts. Some players have gotten better under Rick Tocchet this year. The most important player for the longevity of this team as potentially being a playoff contender, a cup contender, has regressed in a big way. And when the only real rebuttal is Matvei Michkov was out of shape, and you're halfway through the season, if your goal here, if your plan is to simply say, well, we're just going to chalk up this season as a bust and we'll see you again next season, kid, that's not good enough. Michkov got about 12 minutes last night. At some point, I'm not saying the front office has to dictate to the coach, ice time, the lineup. But at some point, you have to kind of wonder aloud, what is really preventing Matvei Michkov from getting more minutes for this team? And if you're trying to win games, it probably would help to have a guy on the ice who has some gravity. Even if you think Matvei Michkov is only 75% of what he was last year, he still has gravity. Unlike a lot of the shits on this team. A lot of the guys on this team who just are nothing. They're nothing burgers. They are mediocre at best players. Unlike some of those guys, Michkov actually has, in theory, a high ceiling. Has an elite skill set. Perhaps the coach should figure out a way to utilize that player. I will once again come back to a very old adage that I have long believed in. An okay coach can force a system on players and get results. A great coach will take their preconceived notions and their pre-formatted system, will assess the players they have, and will adapt that system to maximize the skill sets of those players. Rick Tocchet is not the latter. Rick Tocchet is not that guy. If he were, he would have adjusted by now. He would have figured out a way to unlock Matvei Michkov in a way that, can't believe I'm saying it, John Tortorella did. People are wondering why the Flyers fans are so negative right now. Well, 7 losses in 8 games is a big part of that. It also doesn't help when it seems like the one guy everybody was holding a lot of hope for isn't getting requisite ice time, isn't playing heavy minutes for the team in year 3 of a rebuild. There is a fear that will exist here among this fan base that Rick Tocchet's decision-making, his allocation of minutes, and the system that he is forcing upon this team could ultimately lead to Matvei Michkov deciding he doesn't want to play here anymore. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that is what a fear is. And it's not that crazy of a fear, because this is also a fan base that watched one of their top prospects decide that he didn't want to be associated with the organization in any way, had no interest in playing here, and has since gone on to light the lamp a lot. We may joke about quitter Gauthier, and we may not know how great of a player he will be, but that is still a trauma that this fan base went through. That is still a breakup that many fans have not recovered from. And then turning around and looking at the one guy who gave them hope last season in what was a very much lost season, and the final one under the tutelage of John Tortorella, when they see that guy take a step back, when they see that guy's production crater, they're going to worry that he will not want to be part of the long-term future of this team. There's a lot that's going to fall on this front office and this coaching staff. And they better be careful, because I think they're already now starting to lose people. When the goaltending was otherworldly, and this team had guys like Tyson Forster on a 40-goal pace, it was easy to see a path forward. These last 8 games have taken a lot of the air out of those sails. Teams got to turn it around. They got to figure it out fast. All right. I'm going to go out to the comments here because I saw a lot of comments coming in, and then we're going to go over to the Sixers. Okay. Robert Holston says, leave Anne Hathaway alone. I would never give Anne Hathaway a hard time. Anne Hathaway's a wonderful person, it seems. Great actress. And also, I believe, a Philly fan. Didn't we? We've established this at some point. I think she was at an Eagles game. So we were going to take Anne Hathaway and claim her as one of our own. NM Stacks says, Hathaway belongs in the ECHL. I wouldn't want him to steal a spot in Lehigh Valley. Let's see. K-Dub says Hathaway is trash. B Condor 1 says Hathaway playing more than Michkov in any game is an organizational malpractice. I don't care if Michkov was minus 10 in the game. The quick rebuttal to that is always going to be Hathaway plays when the team is shorthanded, and so if their team has to go on a penalty kill, he's inherently going to have access to minutes that Michkov doesn't. The flip side of that is if the Flyers go on the power play, Michkov will have minutes that Hathaway won't get. Havokin says, Russ, Hathaway was mugged. Just kidding. He had a brain fart. Yeah, he had a big old brain fart. Big old brain fart. Nick Abe says, the culture, though. This culture looks amazing. Robert says, just tap it in. NM says, but Russ, he plays the right way about Hathaway. Same with the Travi. Do we go Travi? The Travi? The plural of Travis? I don't know. Let me know. How should we pronounce it? JH says, it's all about the vibes and culture. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Let's see. Ryan Reeves says, being a Flyers fan is nonstop embarrassment. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Air Raider 8535 says, you must be really mad that it seems like Gurbankin is scratching out. I'm not surprised. Is there any justification for having Nikita Gurbankin out of the lineup? No, there's not. I'm not saying Nikita Gurbankin is like a top 6 forward. I'm not saying that Nikita Gurbankin is the greatest thing ever. I'm not saying that Nikita Gurbankin is worth dying on the hill for. But there is no world in which I would trust having Garnet Hathaway in a game in year 3 of a rebuild over Nikita Gurbankin. It is fucking malpractice. Can we call it what it is? I'm actually going to get angry now. I don't want to get angry. I have no idea what Rick Tocchet is doing. Rick Tocchet is like legitimately doing the kind of shit that people got so frustrated with for so long with this team. It's like we put on the bully mindset.
Oh, we have lost 7 of 8 games. We must figure out way to win game. I will double, triple down. Play dumb player. Play player that does not have high skill. Play player that does not warrant time because he can kill penalty.
Fucking great. Well, on a positive note, when the Flyers get their doors blown off by Colorado and they probably give up 4 or 5 power play opportunities, at least we know that Garnet Hathaway will somehow zoom around the ice and prevent any shots from going off. We'll know that Garnet Hathaway will somehow figure out a way to prevent any goals from going in. You know, thank God we couldn't survive the season without Garnet Hathaway on the penalty kill. I'm glad that we're just year fucking 3 of the rebuild. Garnet Hathaway. We're at the point right now where it is so painfully Flyers. These people go into a panic mode and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have no idea. They have no clue. Where are we at right now? Where are we at genuinely? I have to go over to this because this is where the video's at.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
That is where things are at right now. I have no clue whatsoever what the Flyers are doing. They go into this like shell mode. We've lost all these games. We have to lean on the veterans. How about in year 3 of the rebuild, you let the young guys work through it? How about in year 3 of the rebuild, you lean on your veterans, your highly paid players like Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim, and Sean Couturier to lead you out of this? How about you lean on a player that you've given an exorbitant amount of money to in Owen Tippett to figure out a way to light the lamp? How about you lean on Jamie Drysdale for whom you traded one of your best prospects in Cutter Gauthier? How about you lean on Cam York, who a lot of times this season has looked like a much improved player? How about you do that? How about you lean on those players and then still have enough of the youngish guys that can still get minutes? And again, what is not an important season, year 3 of the rebuild. And we're talking about this team as if they are a Claude Giroux, Jake Voracek, Wayne Simmons-led team that's been doing patchwork to save a GM's job and is going to find themselves in hockey purgatory, and there is no hope. We are talking about this team the same freaking way. It's like no matter how much changes, so much stays the same. What's the reason to have any of these younger guys who have played decent minutes this year? What's the reason to have them out of the lineup? For who, for what? Garnet Hathaway made a mistake in this game that would have gotten 6 other guys on the team benched. And it seems like he's going to be in the lineup. His dumbass move to not fire the puck into an empty net kept the door open for the game to be tied, go to overtime, and see the team lose one of the 2 points that they seemingly had locked up. If Nikita Grabenkin does that, he's benched. If Matvei Michkov does that, good chance he's benched. If Bobby Brink does that, he's probably banished to Siberia. What are we doing? What are we doing? Venom Claw says, I totally agree, Russ, about leaning on the young players in year 3. There is a there's a chasm right now. There is a very clear lack of direction right now. And I don't know where it comes from. See, here's what I do know. I'll give you what I know and I'll give you what I think. What I know is that Danny Briere is a smart enough guy to know there are no free agents available this year. None of value. Trades are going to be incredibly expensive. The only way to find elite talent is going to be through the draft. And yet, this team went and hired a coach who, much like John Tortorella, was not going to lean into the younger guys and potentially into a higher draft pick. This was a guy that was going to fight for every point. And again, for the first half of the season, it worked out really well when you had Dan Vladar playing like Shesterkin. Since he's been hurt, we have seen largely last year's team and this year's team aren't really fundamentally that different. And so now what? Well, you hope that Dan Vladar is going to be back in net, and sooner rather than later, and that Vladar is going to somehow remain healthy the rest of the year, and that he is going to go back to performing at like top 5, top 7 in goals against and save percentage, and that's somehow going to propel you into the playoffs, and maybe you'll figure out a way to put a scare into a team in the first round. That is where the Flyers have to hope they're at. But in fairness, that is exactly where the Flyers had hoped for the last few years under John Tortorella that they would also be. It's the same exact place that the Flyers had hoped Alain Vigneault's Flyers were going to be. It's the same exact place that the Flyers had hoped Dave Hackstall's Flyers were going to be. So again, I ask, what is different now? What has changed? Seemingly not a lot. Not a lot. Okay. I know there are more comments, but I've gone on long enough about the Flyers. Ryan Reese says not a rebuild, though. I think there's an argument to be made that it wasn't a rebuild. It was a slightly more measured retool than ones that we had seen before. Saravalli said it on Snow the Goalie. Like he said a thing that I said at the time. If the team really wanted to rebuild, they would have traded Travis Konechny. They would have figured out a way to probably flip Owen Tippett, accumulated assets, bottomed out, gotten at least one top 3 pick, maybe 2 top 3 picks, hoped that at least one of them becomes elite, and have that shiny toy to go forward. Hopefully it would have been a number 1 defenseman or a number 1 center. That didn't happen. They got lucky with Michkov falling. They lost Gauthier. They have Jet Lachenko. And then Porter Martone. Martone, I think, is going to be a really good player. Again, what's different? What has changed? Nick Abe says year 3 is still selling assets, except they don't have assets to sell. And the ones that they did, they decided to re-up. Ouija Shadow Sanic Sands, I think that's a long name, says, I did not expect Taka to be real inept. I don't think he's an idiot. I just don't understand what he's doing. I wish I did. Kingfish95 says, as long as Comcast is the corporate overlord of the Flyers, nothing will change. I don't know how much any of that has to do with any of this, to be honest. Like, I cannot go out of my way to tell you that, like, there's some kind of evil Comcast overlord that's preventing the Flyers from being a better version of themselves. I don't necessarily think that Spectacor stepped in and, like, told Danny Briere, hey, dude, you cannot bottom out for a year. I kind of fundamentally think that would be a tough thing because they've seen in the past decade, 6 seasons probably, right? 6 out of 10 years, they've probably seen a bottom-feeding-esque kind of team that sort of remains in hockey purgatory, doesn't sell out the arena, has a hard time moving merchandise, has a hard time getting butts in seats. I can't imagine that they sat back and said, well, we're not willing to take on the pain of a little bit more of that falling off. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know. Havokin says, Russ, who makes more money, Hathaway or Grabenkin? Maybe that's why Hathaway's playing. That'd be a shitty reason to play the guy. I don't care how much Hathaway's making. I don't care. It's ridiculous. Let's see. I'm going to skip around here really quick. NM Stack says, I'm still waiting for all the elite talent Tocchet is bringing. Isn't that what they sold us on when he was hired? Well, they did say that he's a very well-liked coach and that he's going to be able to convince guys to come here. Well, the free agents are all gone, and Quinn Hughes has been traded to Minnesota, and then, I don't know, maybe there's somebody else out there that they're going to be able to woo to waive their no-trade clause. We'll see. Kirk McCracken says, can you discuss Charlie O'Connor blaming Flyers fans' criticism of the rebuild on their algorithm? I put out a tweet yesterday noting that I've noticed a lot more people going after Flyers writers than I can remember. It really does feel like this year has been pretty intense. It feels like this year there have been more people going after Flyers writers and accusing them of carrying water for the franchise and all that lovely stuff. It feels like that has been happening a lot more this year. And so Charlie responded to me, and he was noting that Twitter now is not the same as Twitter 5 years ago, and that it's no longer the town square, and that it feeds the negativity into your algorithm, and that's probably why we're seeing more of it. And I don't think he's totally wrong. I do think that there are some people on the Flyers beat who take to Twitter, and they have a relatively condescending tone. And then at the same time, I can also acknowledge that there are a lot of stupid people tweeting at them and tweeting a lot of stupid, negative, nasty things at them. And so sometimes they will get short with people who aren't stupid and short and nasty. Is it an algorithm thing? I don't know. I think that the negativity in Flyers Twitter right now foments more negativity. And the algorithm is kind of designed as such that if you are in that negative headspace and you are essentially raging at what you're reading, chances are you're going to see more and more of that stuff. I'll tell you, going to Europe and being away from social media in a big way for like 10 days is one of the best things that I've been able to do. It's been fantastic, seriously. All right. We have over here, Constitution 1189 says Phillies owner needs to take out a loan so he can compete with the Dodgers. You know what? Why don't we go here real quick? Let's talk about the Phillies for a second, and then we'll finish up with the Sixers because the Sixers are actually positive. So here we go. We're like, this is the algorithm in my mind, going negative to negative. We're going negative Flyers to negative Phillies. So Dave Dombrowski says that he's happy with the team. He doesn't see them adding any other free agents. He feels good about where the roster's at, blah, blah, blah. We're on like year 2, year 3 of me actively questioning what the actual plan is with Dave Dombrowski and the Philadelphia Phillies. And I've said this a bunch of times. If you look back at Dave Dombrowski's history, right, there have been stops where he has lit the farm system on fire to make a big, Richard Energy kind of move and acquire a star with the intent of trying to push his team over the hump. And he has not done that with the Phillies, which makes me kind of question, is there a mandate from the top? Is there a mandate from ownership to not blow up the farm system? Is there a mandate by the ownership to not spend money? But we come back to the Bo Bichette contract and almost $30 million a year being offered to Bo Bichette. And that certainly tells me that there's not a mandate to not spend at all. I will also go back to the Yamamoto sweepstakes and the fact that the Phillies are of the belief that they offered a better contract with more money to go after Yamamoto. And yet, the Phillies decided to let Ranger Suarez leave. They were about to let JT Realmuto leave as long as they got Bo Bichette. Suarez left. Bichette had a change of heart and went to the Mets. The Phillies panicked and brought back Realmuto. And now it seems like they're not going to sign any free agents. Now, a rumor came out today that the Phillies might actually look to add another starter, which had me want to smash my head through a wall because you had a guy here who not only was a really strong regular season pitcher, who definitely multiple times warranted some Cy Young conversation, but also a guy who was a stone-cold killer in the playoffs when it matters the most, and you let him leave to go to Boston. And by all accounts, Ranger Suarez was very much open to, perhaps even desiring a return to the Phillies. And the Phillies said, no, we're good. We're going to trust that Andrew Painter, who struggled in the minors last year, we're going to trust that Andrew Painter is ready to step in and not only replicate the regular season performance of Ranger Suarez, but in theory is going to be a stone-cold killer in the playoffs. And maybe he will be. We don't know. We don't know, folks. We don't know. But I keep saying it. This Phillies team is worse right now going into next season than it was last offseason going into the season. The only thing that Dave Dombrowski, in my mind, the only thing he's done well this offseason was motivate Bryce Harper. And I do think that that actually does matter. Remember, I don't think that Dave Dombrowski was wrong when he questioned whether or not Bryce Harper can be elite again. I don't think he was wrong by saying that Harper didn't have an elite season last year. And it does seem like it got under Bryce Harper's skin, and he looks like he's ready to tear the cover off the ball. If you get a highly motivated Bryce Harper playing back at that MVP level, Dave Dombrowski deserves a lot of credit for pissing off his star player. But in the interim, I've been hoping, not praying. I don't waste my prayers on the Philly teams, but I've certainly been hoping that we were going to get one move that was going to shake up the locker room, the clubhouse, one more move that was going to give me the hope that this Phillies team was going to be able to give the Dodgers a better run in the playoffs. And instead what we've seen is Kyle Tucker goes to the Dodgers. He's getting $1 million and then like a $64 million signing bonus. That's bananagrams. We're watching the Mets just make move after move after move. I don't know how many of them will matter. There's part of me that wonders if the Mets are kind of having like a Washington football team, Washington Commanders, Washington Redskins kind of offseason where they go out and they get some of the flashiest toys and then they're still the Washington team and everything falls apart. I'm not positive what the Mets are going to look like, but I have to at least commend them and commend their ownership on opening the checkbook, writing a big fat check, and then going out and not being afraid of trading prospects to try to go out and get star players or get guys that can legitimately impact their team in a big way. I don't know what to think about the Phillies right now. I keep telling you, I think they're worse than they were last year. I'm going to go out here real quick. Constitution says he got paid, Ranger. I think I'm pretty sure we are all going to commend and embrace Ranger Suarez. Whenever he comes back to Citizens Bank Park, no one is allowed to boo Ranger Suarez. I don't think anybody would, but good for Suarez getting paid, man. That dude was an absolute star for this team. I think it's a total miscalculation to let him go. K-Dub says January 23rd and the Phillies 2026 season is over. I mean, injuries are maybe the only thing that could get between the Dodgers and the World Series trophy again. I don't know what to think of the Mets. Mets have a lot going on, though. Havokin says, Russ, I do think they want to bring Bader back, but cheaper. So does he play it off like they don't want to sign anyone else? I don't know. I have to tell you, I really enjoyed Bader when he was here. But if you look at the historical numbers of Harrison Bader, he outplayed a lot of his career norms. So, like, I wouldn't want Bader to come back here on an inflated contract. That's worrisome to me. Ford says there's no plan. It's run it back. There was a really funny video going around, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it in time, but Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, put out this thing about running it back. And I wanted to kind of smash my head into a wall because I got it here. This is from over on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Rob Thompson was asked about the fact that they aren't really turning over the roster a lot and that many of the main players on this team remain in place. And there's this idea that they are running it back. And I want you to hear what Rob Thompson had to say because I like Rob Thompson. I think Rob Thompson seems like a good dude. I think he's been a good manager for this team. But this is like the definition of tone deaf. Here's Rob Thompson. I believe this was earlier this week. This might have been like Monday or Tuesday. Here's Rob Thompson when asked about the idea that the Phillies are running it back.
Well, we're going to have 3 new relievers. We got a new right fielder. We're going to put Crawford. Crawford's going to get every chance to play. We probably got a rookie starting pitcher and Painter. We got Otto Kemp, who wasn't here at the start of last year. So we're turning over 20 to 25% of our roster. So if you think that's turning it back or running it back, whatever the saying is, yeah, I can't help you.
Well, it doesn't seem like anybody can help because you've also subtracted one of your best pitchers in Ranger Suarez. You still have a $20 million albatross named Nick Castellanos that your front office has failed to move. I mean, if we want to be really critical here, do we have a conversation about how the Phillies front office absolutely telegraphed everything about what they were going to do this offseason? Like, could nobody in Phillies land have lied and said, yeah, Nick Castellanos had a rough postseason, had a rough season in general, but we believe in his bounce back. We still think he's one of the best hitters in the National League. We still think that he's going to hit 20 to 25 home runs, especially because he plays at Citizens Bank Park. We still think that there's the potential that he could be a legitimate extra base threat. And we're confident in Nick Castellanos. It would take a lot for us to move off of him. Instead of doing that, Phillies season ended, and it was almost like, yo, fuck this guy. This guy sucks. We don't want this guy. Nick Castellanos. We don't want Nick Castellanos. Are you kidding me? He's horrible. Have you watched him? Have you watched base? He's been terrible. Oh, you're another GM of another team. Oh, no, he's been okay. He's been fine. He's been an okay player for us. He's been good. He's been okay. They telegraphed. They couldn't have put, like, if they put Nick Castellanos out on, like, Patterson Avenue with a sign that said free, if they took him to the winter meetings with a sign that said free and just set him by the owner's table, that might have been less telegraphing than what Dave Dombrowski has done since the end of the season. Unbelievable. And every report that comes out about Castellanos is the Phillies are hoping that a team will take Castellanos, even if it costs the Phillies $17 or $18 million. They're just looking for a $1 or $2 million savings to move Nick Castellanos at this point. Okay, so anyway, back to Thompson. So he says, we'll probably have a rookie pitcher. All right, so you're replacing Ranger with Painter. You could also make the argument that you're replacing Zach Wheeler in some ways with Andrew Painter. He was about to say that they're going to have Justin Crawford playing center field and then says that Crawford will have every opportunity to play. So that is a change. Different right fielder, well, sure, because you signed Garcia, who's very similar in a lot of ways to Castellanos, but okay. You let Bader go, okay. Otto Kemp is here. Well, Otto Kemp was with the team last year. It's not as if, he didn't exist last year. I definitely remember going and watching him hit multiple home runs in a game at Yankee Stadium, so I'm pretty sure Otto Kemp was a real thing last year. Bullpens get turned over. 3 bullpen arms get turned over. Okay, that's fine. That's okay, I guess fair point, sort of. Rob, we're talking about the stars of your team. We're talking about the guys who matter the most. We'll leave the rotation out of it, right? Rotation, you don't exactly want one of the best rotations in baseball to have a lot of turnover. But if you look at the lineup, you re-signed your DH, who you hope isn't going to have a precipitous fall off. You still have Trey Turner. You still have Bryce Harper. You decided to re-sign JT Realmuto. You have not moved on from Nick Castellanos yet. You have not moved on from Alec Boehm yet. Stott is still here. of feels like running it back. Kind of does. So it's kind of understandable why there's negativity around the team. I understand the fact that, like, Thompson's trying to take one for the team, take one for the front office. But you gotta be honest here. It's very, very much running it back. And I see people trying to make comparisons of who Rob Thompson looks like. But, like, guys, I'm pretty sure that I've brought this up before. There is only one person who Rob Thompson looks like. Only one person. And it's a former president. Rob Thompson, without a doubt, looks exactly like Lyndon B. Johnson. 100%. I want you to think for a second about Rob Thompson. And then when I pull up a picture of Lyndon Johnson, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. Like, all right, we have the mental image right now of Rob Thompson. All right. And now I just want you guys to take a gander here really quick. Here's Lyndon Johnson. Now tell me that this isn't the same person. What the heck happened? Oh, there we go. Lyndon Johnson. Boom. There he is. You're going to try to tell me that doesn't look like Rob Thompson? If we put a Phillies hat on Lyndon Johnson right now, well, you can't exactly put it on him right now. But, like, if you were to theoretically Photoshop a hat onto this picture of Lyndon Johnson, you could totally imagine him talking to Alec Boehm about yet another base running blunder. Rob Thompson and Lyndon Johnson are practically brothers. So you could keep your Chris Drury comparisons or whatever. We got to be honest here. And I try to be honest as much as I can. Okay. They're pretty much brothers. Okay. I want to get to the Sixers here before we head out, because the Sixers actually do deserve a little bit of positivity. Now, in the midst of the European extravaganza I was on, I was getting a lot of tweets. Russ, you left and your Sixers have fallen apart. What's wrong with your Sixers? And the one thing I keep coming back to is I don't expect perfection out of the Sixers. And I'm also cognizant of the fact that, like, things change at a pretty fast pace in the NBA. And you could just as easily one day be in, like, 5th place in the conference as a week later you could be in 2nd, or you could be down in 8th. There's parity in the Eastern Conference in the NBA, just like there is in the NHL. The Sixers had a game last night that has to give you a lot of confidence. The Houston Rockets have, from the offseason, the preseason, early part of the regular season, halfway through the regular season, the Rockets have been viewed as one of the biggest threats to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference. They've been viewed as one of the biggest threats to win the NBA Finals. And so when you are lined up across from Kevin Durant's squad, you kind of go into that game expecting a real tough task, a really tough matchup. And there has been a beautiful rejuvenation, a renaissance of Joel Embiid this season, especially in the past month and a half. But man, if you watched Thursday night's game and you didn't feel like something is drastically different with Joel Embiid, then we're not watching the same sport. Embiid played 46 minutes. It was an overtime game. He played 46 minutes. He hasn't done that since 2022. I want that to sink in for a second. Joel Embiid had a triple-double in the year of our Lord 2026, had not played 46 minutes in 4 years. Now, it's been clear Embiid has looked significantly better as the season has gone on. There is a certain lightness to him right now. There is a certain pep in his step. And while he's not the athletic specimen he was when he came into the NBA, he certainly looks more like the MVP that we had grown accustomed to watching night in and night out. So you look at Embiid's game last night, 32 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, a triple-double. And then he was quoted after the game. It's the anniversary of his 70-point game, and he joked that he was going to have to find his wife, and maybe this would be a good time to maybe have a baby. Threw that one out there last night. And if that does happen, then, good on Joel Embiid and his wife, and congrats to their family if it happens. But Embiid looked like an absolute bona fide star. He looked like Joel Embiid of years ago. There is something hopefully positive brewing under the surface of Joel Embiid. It's easy to let your mind kind of slip right? And to start going negative, it's great to see him do that one game. Can he put it together over a 10-game stretch, a 12-game stretch, a 15-game stretch? He's been really good. And physically, he looks as good as he has in, 5 years, 6 years. On the season, he's averaging just under 25 points. He's at 24.5 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 3.6 assists, shooting just under 48% from the field. That, to me, sounds like a guy who may not be all the way back, but is certainly getting closer. In his last 5 games, Embiid has scored at least 27 points, 4 out of those last 5 games. Not bad. Not bad at all. Embiid's 15 rebounds against the Rockets was an impressive showing. He's not putting up double-digit rebounds each and every night out. 10 assists last night was a high as well. But again, you have to look at the Sixers on aggregate. You have to look at the Sixers overall over the past month and a half, and it's really easy to see why so many people going into the season felt like the Sixers team in a somewhat depleted Eastern Conference could maybe make a run at a top 3 seed. Now, Paul George was asked about it after the game last night. He was asked about, they're close. They're getting closer to where Boston is at. Boston's in the number 2 spot in the conference. They are only 3 games behind Boston. Now, I know there's a lot of positivity with the Celtics. There is a lot of shock at how good the Celtics have been without Jason Tatum, and it does feel like pretty much non-zero chance has become an almost definitive that Jason Tatum will be back this season. At what percentage, no one seems to know. But it is not unfathomable for the Sixers to catch the Celtics. And the Knicks have been such a mess. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They've had alumni, right? They've had former star players for the Knicks leaving games early. They've looked dazed and confused. There are all kinds of rumors coming out about the team being upset with Karl Anthony Towns. There's a non-zero chance that the Knicks continue to fall. I don't believe in the Raptors team at all. So if all those things happen, you are legitimately looking at a pretty clear path to the Sixers being a top 3 team in the conference. Are they better than Detroit? No, not right now. If they continue to build chemistry between Maxey, Edgecombe, George, and Embiid, well, yeah, I would say that the star players on aggregate are better with the Sixers than they are with the Pistons. The Celtics will once again be a team that you're afraid to run into in the playoffs. But this Sixers team is starting to look like exactly what we hoped it would develop into being. If Embiid can stay any version of remotely healthy, Paul George can continue to settle into his role. Edgecombe continues to have the ups and downs of a rookie campaign. He'll go off for 30 points one night, and then he'll have a night where he goes off for only 9 points. But he's still impactful on both ends of the court. And Tyrese Maxey, who, it's funny. You look at last night's game, and you obviously, your eye is kind of focused in on the triple-double from Embiid. But ho-hum, Tyrese Maxey had another 36-point game. Yawn. 36 points and 10 assists. Yawn. Just another superstar night at the office for Tyrese Maxey. You put all those things together, and it is entirely possible this could be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. I continue to hope. You know me. If there's one team I can't be objective about, it's the Philadelphia 76ers. I hope things continue to trend in the right direction. Now, I see people asking questions about Jared McCain. What happened to Jared McCain's jumper? The Jared injury is still bugging him. Listen, I think McCain desperately, if you're going to make a comparison, he needs kind of that Michkov idea of the season might be a bust. The knee injury really seems to have hurt his mobility. It seems like he just wasn't able to do conditioning like he probably would have wanted to. He looks slow. The quick twitch isn't there. And then you add to that the thumb injury. McCain doesn't look even remotely close to the player he was last year. I mean, he looks like a far cry from rookie season Jared McCain. The good news for the Sixers is VJ Edgecombe has more than stepped up and made up for that production. You have a guy like Kelly Oubre who can come in and get you meaningful minutes. This team on the whole is a better team than they were a season ago. If they can remain somewhat healthy, we'll see. All right. Go Birds says, had Gazos today, Russ. You put me on a few years ago. It's so much better since. Or it's got so much better since. Gazos are fantastic. Up in Pottstown. Oh, yeah. I love me some Gazos. They continue to put, like, I follow them on Facebook. Gazos has so many different kinds of cheesesteak. And I don't go there enough, partially because, like, I feel like I could talk my way into having a Gazos cheesesteak every day. And then instead of losing weight like I did in Europe, I would gain about 10x the weight that I lost if I went to Gazos every day. They use high quality ingredients, so it's not that. It's just you can't have that many cheesesteaks. Here we go. Bless Amadeo. Everybody just have a moment where we all say bless Amadeo because he did something good. I put an idea out there, ladies and gents. You ready? I put out this thing about what happens if you put a Phillies hat on Lyndon Johnson. I did ask for this, and you were all here for it. And I got to see if it's going to work because it might not. Actually, you know what? If I do this, I think this will work. If I open it up within an app, I think I can show it to everybody. I think I can. All right. We'll end the show with this today. You guys wanted to know what it would look like if Lyndon Johnson had a Phillies hat? Everybody thank Video Guy Amadeo. Here you go. This is Lyndon Johnson with a Phillies hat. See this guy over here? This guy doesn't want to hear that the Phillies are running it back. This guy. He doesn't want to hear that the Phillies are running it back. Speaking of running it back, we will run this show back on Monday. It's been a long 2 weeks. I appreciate everybody who joined me when I was over in Vienna and in Barcelona. Thank you to all of you who tuned in. Thank you for all of you who left comments and dropped comments and DM'd and asked questions and gave recommendations of places to go, and all of those of you who listen to the podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. I will be back on Monday. Until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. Talk to each and every one of you Monday here on the Russ Joy Show. Have a great weekend, everybody. Talk soon. Bye now.